Hello, everyone. Benjamin Lindsay here. Happy Monday. If you're joining us today, we are sitting with Jessica Rothe for an Instagram Live interview. Very excited to speak with her for the first time. She is most recently seen starring on Amazon Prime Video's Utopia. And I just got into it this weekend. It's a hell of a show. Really just kind of surprising. There's a lot of twists and turns in it and a lot of things to dive into with Jessica today. So without further ado, I will pull her up here once she's in the audience and we can get going. You'll also know her from La La Land, from the Happy Death Day horror franchise. She was in a remake of Valley Girl earlier this year. Really just a versatile performer, and should be a good convo. So stick around just while I pull her up in here, and we'll get this show on the road. Hey there!
Yay!
We did it. We did it.
Instagram is so simple and yet so complicated for me for some reason. I'm always so worried I'm gonna mess stuff like this up. So
fine. We did it. We're here. We're chatting.
We did.
I'm Ben. I'm from managing editor here at Backstage. Great
Nice to meet you
virtually. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, you as well.
Now I just got into Utopia this weekend, knowing this interview.
Oh.
So many twists and turns in this one. I don't know if we want to get into too spoilery territory, but really just high octane, hits the ground running. Your character is really essential in the first slate of episodes, bringing these people together, these kind of Utopia super fans, and sets off the action of the series. So just for starters, what was it like to be involved with this project? How did it first come along? What made you say yes? Just what excited you about it?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest draws, if not the biggest draw, was definitely Gillian Flynn. Funny enough, I had actually encountered this project years ago. It was supposed to be with HBO and David Fincher, like back in 20, I don't even know, 14 or something like that. But I think that it really found the right home with Gillian and with Amazon, because she has such a dark and deliciously twisted mind, and kind of like you were talking about with the show, like with her previous work, Sharper Objects and Gone Girl, it became so clear to me that she's just a master at kind of these high stakes, terrifying, wonderful adventures, but her characters also have so much heart. And they're really, really human. And that's one of the things that I love the most about the show is it's so complicated, just like life. Like there are no 100% good guys or bad guys. Everybody's kind of somewhere on the spectrum. And as for Sam, she's just such an incredibly passionate, vocal, vibrant young woman. And it was a really incredible opportunity to jump into the shoes of someone who is so unapologetic, because I'm very much a people pleaser, and that's like one of my base operating places. So to be able to be someone who kind of doesn't give a F about what anybody else thinks, and also is so passionate and so adamant in her beliefs. And she really does believe that these comic books, for those of you who are watching who haven't seen the show yet, hold the key to saving the world. That was just a really fun place to operate from.
Yeah. I mean, a fun place for a character to take you, but also just what a unlikely premise. And even some of the odd, fantastical, sure, but there's definitely through lines to kind of the world we're living in today, in more darker ways. But
which was totally wild, because we finished shooting this in September of last year. So it's been almost a year, which is insane. And none of us could have ever guessed the parallels that would be happening when the show was released and what's going on in our world. But I think that it's a really cool opportunity for people who that kind of show is kind of their jam, a cool way to reflect on the things that are happening and kind of process in a slightly removed way, because as you said, the world is so heightened. And I think that that's one of the things I love about genre, is I think it allows us to process things in our own lives and emotions we have, without getting too close, as if it were something that felt a little more grounded or realistic or kind of jarring because it was too close to home. But not only can people process in that way, but there's also a lot of hope in the show, even though it is so dark and so twisted and so kind of wild. I think at the root of it, it is a show about a group of unlikely heroes who will stop at nothing to save humanity. And I think that we need more stories like that right now. I need more stories like that right now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I love what you say about the genre work. You obviously kind of got your big break with Happy Death Day.
Yeah.
Obviously a piece of genre work itself. But then you look at other things that you've done. La La Land, you had a co-starring role, and then there was the Valley Girl musical remake earlier this year. Upcoming, you have All My Life. So really, like you are dipping your toes into various genre waters. I'm curious, what makes you excited about a project? What makes you say yes to something from the get?
I think for me, first and foremost, it always has to do with story. And I'm really lucky. My team that I work with is incredible. And one of the things that we all have in common is that we all love incredible writing, incredible story, incredible characters. And that's where it has to start, because if the bones aren't there, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at something. It's just not going to be good. But I think I like to look for things with incredible story. I like to look for projects that scare me, because why do something if it's going to be easy, I guess. I don't know, but I like challenges. And I love working with people who are better than me, because I want to learn. And I think that's the way that you learn, is you surround yourself by people who, whether it's that they've been doing this longer, or they have different life experiences, or it's an incredible filmmaker auteur who has a vision and passion and kind of a very, very specific style. I think that that's what's so exciting about this job, is getting to meet people like that and getting to be exposed to different ideas and different ways of life.
Yeah, yeah. And you are certainly, storytelling wise, you're in good hands here with Gillian, as you said. But you mentioned that this first kind of came on your radar when Fincher was still attached. Did you have to audition for this production of it, or how did it?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
I did. Well, also because Sam is completely Gillian's creation. Sam did not exist in the UK version or in the David Fincher version of the show, which is one thing that's so cool. And like,
well, yeah,
yeah, it's really cool. And I then got the kind of luxury of being able to watch the British show and not worry that it was going to affect my interpretation of the character. Like Desmond, who plays Wilson, who's brilliant in the show, talked in interviews about how he only watched the first 3 episodes and then he stopped because he wanted to pay homage to the brilliant performances and kind of the original work that was done, but he didn't want to copy anything. And I luckily got to kind of go in mind and find all of the things that I really wanted to use as source material and that inspired me. But I didn't have to worry about ripping off anyone else's work, which was nice.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah.
And have you found yourself auditioning during this weird period that we're in? Are you staying busy? Are you working? Or what the last few months like for you?
It's been wild and weird, as I'm sure it's been for everybody. I have put myself on tape for a couple things. Luckily, that was something that was happening before quarantine, so that wasn't quite as jarring. It's more just been that, there aren't as many projects out there right now, and the ones that are floating around, you don't know how real they are, or if there will be a COVID outbreak and everything will have to shut down. So
what timeline's gonna be,
So it's definitely been a meditative practice in patience and tampering my expectations. But I've actually been writing, which has been amazing. I had an idea for a movie, and my manager, Ali Veneris, really, really encouraged me and pushed me to write it. And I was kind of like, oh, I couldn't possibly, like, I enjoy, once the script is there, going in and giving notes and kind of collaborating with writers and directors, but I don't know if I could do this. And we found a producing partner who's helping me develop it, and I'm working with another writer. And so it's been this really kind of eye-opening and incredible experience. Writers are so talented and they work so hard, and I had so much respect for them, and more even now, because it is a really, really lonely and bizarre job.
Mm,
But it's also been incredibly fulfilling, especially during this time where otherwise I would have just been baking sourdough bread like every other hipster in Los Angeles. And like
right,
I
right.
got really into tie dyeing for a while,
Okay.
or like I have more plants now. Like it's stuff like
So you're
that.
still
But
checking those boxes while also feeding the creative well, writing, and getting out there. That's great.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but when it does, we haven't spoken to you before on behalf of Backstage. Our audience today, in addition to fans of yours, are kind of the actors and creators of the world. I'd love to hear your best piece of audition advice for people out there who might be hitting the room with a self tape.
Oh my gosh. I mean, beyond things that seem kind of apparent but maybe aren't, it's of course like be prepared, know your lines, find the part of the character that you really relate to and that makes you excited and passionate about the project, because I
Mhm.
do think that passion and being excited about something can take you a really, really long way. And if you're not, and if you're kind of just phoning it in, not only are you wasting the people watching it time, but you're wasting your own. Like if you
Mhm.
don't want to be doing it, then I don't know. It's a hard enough job anyway. But yeah, I don't know. It's so funny. I feel like my relationship with auditioning for things has morphed and changed so much over the years through experience, and because self tapes are so much more of a thing now. Like I actually lived in New York for a long time, and I would comb Backstage
Oh,
and
there.
comb playbill.com and comb all of those things and go to all of the open calls. So actually my other piece of totally contradictory advice is just get out there and do it a lot.
Mhm.
Do it a lot, and even if you're not right for the part, go out there and give it your all, because you never know who's watching, and you never know what that experience will lead to, even if it's not that specific job. Like I've had experiences in the past where I've auditioned for something and I haven't gotten it, but I found out later that a job that I did get came because I gave a good audition
Mhm.
years ago. And I'm lucky that I have friends who work in casting and things like that, so I hear those stories. But I think it's really easy as an actor to become discouraged because you don't hear those things. So I am telling all of you out there that it does happen, and so anytime you can go in and put your best foot forward, that's that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love hearing that you're a case in point of booking the room instead of the role. That
Yeah.
you need to that you are remembered even if you don't get the role by the gatekeepers, the casting directors who might find something fitting for you down the road. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a coach tell me once, like this is your chance to do what you love to do.
Hmm.
That you auditioning is your chance to really get in there and do what you love to do. And even though there are days where that feels difficult, because I'm like, I know, but I want to be like in there and doing it for real, and I really want this thing. I think it's a good thing to remember, and a really wonderful place to center yourself and start from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you kind of got your training. You mentioned an acting coach now, but you also trained at Boston University. Is that right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you still carry the kind of nuts and bolts of your professional training to the roles that you're doing today?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I like to think so. I mean, you know, all different roles require different things, especially in film, and especially with different directors. Like every process is so vastly different. So it is really, really nice to always have kind of the basics to go back to. And I do really think at BU, I studied Shakespeare and Ibsen and Chekhov and Pinter. And I do think that taught me an appreciation and a love for language, and a love to know how to use language and go back to the text. And that is something that I really use. But I also have continued to learn. I work with Ted Silbersky, who's out of New York, who's amazing. I've worked with coaches here in different capacities, and I've continued to take classes because I think that it's a muscle that always needs to be flexed.
Mhm.
And who am I to think that I've arrived at the pinnacle of my like
Right,
my
right.
expertise as an actor?
No, the journey never ends. I love hearing
Yeah.
that. Well, just two more questions for you. Again, kind of taking a walk down memory lane, maybe the days when you were reading Backstage in New York. Do you have
Mhm.
one piece of advice that you would give your younger self? Just something you've learned along your journey that you wish you knew back then?
Yeah, I think, that's such a good question. Um, I think that it's kind of like, not to get super theatery, but it's like that line in The Seagull where she says that art, like being an actor, isn't about fame and fortune or any of the things I ever thought it was about, but it's about learning how to persevere and how to have hope,
Hmm.
and kind of how to just be able, my interpretation of it is to dig down and kind of into that well of perseverance and your ability to endure. And I do think that that's part of this. But so I would want to tell younger me that, like, there are going to be jobs that you think are the one that
Hmm.
would make your career, and it's not. And
Hmm.
then there are going to be jobs that you think are just a little fun, silly job you're doing, and that's going to be the one to make all the difference. Like,
Yeah.
we never thought Happy Death Day was going to be what it was. Um, but I'm so grateful for that job, because not only did it boost my career in a way, but I made some of the best friends that
Hmm.
I've ever made on a set, and I'm still really close with some of them. And so I think it's remembering to be present and um, grateful and appreciative of all of the opportunities you have, and to know that there is no one big break.
Hmm.
There, that's not how, I wish that's how it worked. It would make everything a lot simpler,
A lot easier.
um, a lot more black and white, but it's not. It's a series of drops in the bucket.
Hmm.
I had someone, when I first moved to New York, I had someone tell me, if you do three things every day, um, to work on your career. And that could be everything from working on an audition to reading a play to having coffee with a writer, like whatever it is, that you will continually move forward. And I do think that that's really true, that it's all it's all just drops in the bucket. It's all you opening yourself to the universe and saying, like, I'm here and I'm ready, and I'm excited to work. And beyond that, there's nothing else you can
Right.
really control.
Well, that's great. I feel like that's nice words to leave our viewers with today.
Yeah.
As a final question, I will go to those viewers. I see a couple people in our comments, big fans of Happy Death Day. Is there any word on a third installment for that?
It the thing I'll say about the third movie is Chris has it totally figured out. And of course, everyone who is involved with the films would really love to make it, but we also only want to make it if we can make it in the right way.
Hmm.
Because I think that we owe it to our fans, we owe it to Tree, we owe it to the genre of horror to kind
Hmm.
of, and comedy horror, to finish it out in a respectful and correct way. And so I hope that will happen someday. I mean, I'm like, maybe we'll pull a Halloween, and in like 20 years I'll get to be badass Jamie Lee Curtis and like come
Hmm.
back and get some baby face. So we'll see. Who knows? Life
We'll
is
see how
long
it
and the
takes out.
future is open.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Well, it's been
Yeah.
great to have your ear for a bit. Thanks for spending time with us.
Thank
Uh,
you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Utopia is streaming now on Amazon Prime Video. If you haven't watched it yet, it's so worth it. It's great. All right, well, I'll wrap things up here. Thanks again, and we'll see you next
Thank
time.
you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.